As of today, it is assumed that humanism and atheism are inseparable, or at least closely linked. Many atheists identify as humanists, and many humanists are atheists. But what if the arguments charged at religion were used to attack the foundations of modern secular society? What if Enlightenment values were, in some sense, flipped onto themselves and arguably taken to their logical conclusion? This is precisely a task that Max Stirner set out to do, particularly in opposition to other young Hegelians such as Marx, Feuerbach, and Bruno Bauer. He does this first by drawing parallels between the pious and the secular, taking note on how the humanist concept of man had in many ways replaced the faithful's concept of God. There arises a new faith, faith in humanity, or liberty. For the individual's God, the God of all, to wit, man, is now exalted. For it is the highest thing in us all to be man. But, as nobody can become entirely what the idea man imports, man remains to the individual a lofty other world, an unattained supreme being, a god. For Stirner, man was as much of a fable as God was. And when we say man, it's important to realize that we are not referring to actual existing men and women. We're referring to a floating abstraction, a spook, a fixed idea, a concept. And it was this mystification of man that Stirner rejects. The sentence, God has become man, is now followed by the other, man has become I. This is the human I. But we invert it and say, I was not able to find myself so long as I sought myself as man. But now that it appears that man is aspiring to become I and to gain a corporeity in me, I note that, after all, everything depends on me, and man is lost without me. But I do not care to give myself up to the shrine of this most holy thing, and shall not ask henceforward whether I am man or unman in what I set about. Let this spirit keep off my neck. I throw away man too, because I feel that he too is alien to me, and that I can make no pretensions on that basis. The religious, especially in Stirner's day, obviously held on to certain metaphysical beliefs such as souls, the afterlife, angels, spirits, demons, and of course, a belief that they were created in the image of God. In connection with these beliefs came belief in purpose, meaning, value, and worth. In fact, Nietzsche later went on to criticize how Christianity ties self-worth into the immaterial and heavenly, as it rejects our material existence, our only existence. But enough about Nietzsche. But around the altar rises the arches of a church, and its walls keep moving further and further out. What they enclose is sacred. You can no longer get to it, no longer touch it. Shrieking with the hunger that devours you, you wander around about these walls in search of the little that is profane, and the circles of your course keep growing more and more extended. Soon that church will embrace the whole world, and you will be driven out to extreme edge. Another step, and the world of the sacred has conquered you. Sink into the abyss. Therefore, take courage while it is yet time. Wander about no longer in the profane, where now it is dry feeding. Dare they leap, and rush in through the gates into the sanctuary itself. If you devour the sacred, you have made it your own. Digest the sacramental wafer, and you are rid of it. The spirit, which alone the Christian loves, is nothing. In other words, that the spirit is a lie. Max Stirner refers to the aforementioned beliefs as fixed ideas, ideas that serve to perpetuate themselves, seemingly independent of the subject thinking of them, or, more colloquially, ideas that have no existence independent of us, but nonetheless control us. Beliefs of that kind in philosophy typically fall under the metaphysical category of substance or Cartesian dualism, the view that two ontologically distinct substances exist, in this instance, matter and spirit. In many ways, one could say that Stirner sees the humanist worldview in the same way he sees the religious worldview. Wherein the religious have claimed man's essence to be divine, the humanists have claimed man's essence to be of a rational nature. Therefore, a general human faith must come into existence, the fanaticism of liberty. For this would be a faith that agreed with the essence of man, and because only man is reasonable, you and I may be very unreasonable, a reasonable faith. Liberalism simply brought other concepts on the carpet. Human instead of divine, political instead of ecclesiastical, scientific instead of doctrinal, or more generally, real concepts and eternal laws instead of crude dogmas and precepts. Where the religious believe in the soul, the afterlife, spirits, immaterial things, the humanist has faith in the state, society, the common good, more immaterial things. Now, of course, a divine soul, spirits, gods, and an afterlife aren't the same as government, law, and morality, but Stirner argues are just as immaterial and treated as sacred nonetheless. largely because we have merely abandoned one fixed idea for another fixed idea. So, despite the differences in the humanist depiction of man and the religious view of man, both misrepresent man in favor of an abstract, fixed idea rather than grounding man in his corporeality. Atheists keep up their scoffing at the higher being, which was also honored under the name of the highest, or the Être Supreme, and trample in the dust one proof of his existence after another, without noticing that they themselves, out of need for a higher being, only annihilate the old to make room for a new. Is man, perchance, not a higher essence than an individual man? And must not the truths, rights, and ideas which result from the concept of him be honored and counted sacred as revelations of this very concept? Whether then the one God or the three in one, whether the Lutheran God or the Être Supreme, or not God at all, but man, may represent the highest essence, that makes no difference at all for him who denies the highest essence itself. For in his eyes, those servants of a higher essence are one and all pious people, the most raging atheist not less than the most faith-filled Christian. In the foremost place of the sacred, then, stands the highest essence and the faith in his essence, our holy faith. Where the faithful alienate man in the form of spirit, the humanists alienate man in the form of the uppercase M man. For Stirner, man is not divine, nor is he a rational or moral creature. For Stirner, man is nothing, the creative nothing.